Okay guys, so what we're going to have a little look at now is with Unreal Engine 5, we're going to have a look at the Blueprint scripting system. Just a real ultimate beginners, or absolute beginners, I should say, guide to blueprints. So if you've never done it before, hopefully this will help you. So where we're going to start is by creating a fresh blueprint script. So if I click on my content folder here, um, over here anywhere will do. When you right click here, you have this option to create a new blueprint class. Okay, so if I click that, it gives us a selection of different blueprints that we can create. So we've got an actor, a pawn, a character, player controller, etc. And it gives you a little description of what they are. And you can also look at the documentation if you want to get a full description of these things. So um, the most common one is going to be an actor. Okay, an actor is something that's just as it says there, something that's just placed into the world that has some interactivity to it. I could just put in, like, for example, these walls here, they're not blueprints, they're just static meshes. They don't have any interactivity apart from obviously, they have collision. So they're not blueprints. Whereas an actor is something, I could have one of these walls as an actor, and it might be that, when you hit that wall, something happens, it does something. Okay, so that's an actor. Um, So obviously you've got your character. That's kind of a character is kind of something that, like, one of the enemies in your game, for example, that has some kind of AI. So when it sees you, it tries to shoot you or whatever. That's going to be a character. It's kind of confusing because a pawn, therefore, is something that, as it says here, can be possessed and receive input from a controller. So your actual player character would be a pawn. Um, Slightly confusing, I know, but I'm not going to go through all of those right now. This is just a real introduction, but those are the main ones, and we're going to start with an actor. Okay, so um, just call this example. All right, so we have this blueprint class now called example. If I double click it, it opens up the kind of blueprint window, if you like. Okay, so what we can do in here, first of all, we have this viewport. So this is what the blueprint is going to what you're going to see, like the model, for example. So I could bring in here and add over here in this components tab a cube. All right, and you move around in this viewport the same way you would in the normal viewports with WASD and the right mouse key. Okay, so when I place this into the world, it's going to be a cube. All right, and you can do things like if I add if I scroll down, you've got these collision detections, so I might want to have a box collision there. Scale that up. So you can see this orange sort of boundary box is the collision. So let's say this was a blueprint for, when I entered this orange area, it's going to trigger something to happen, for example. All right, so this is the components kind of tab where you can add in lots of things that you're going to actually see on your map when you add this into the game. All right, so also you have this tab here called construction script. I'm not going to touch on that right now because I think that's kind of outside the boundaries of absolute beginners. But the more important thing here is the event graph. All right. Now, um, with the event graph, you have sort of given to you already these events. Okay. So these red ones are going to be the events. These are going to be like your trigger events that are going to trigger something to happen. So let's get rid of those. We'll get rid of the. Actually, no, I'll explain all the. So, event begin play, um, as kind of is obvious, it's something that's as soon as the game begins, this is going to happen. All right, whatever that might be. And then you've got the event actor begin overlap. Okay, so when something overlaps, then it's going to trigger something to happen. And then you've got the event tick, which is so the tick is like every frame of the game. So event tick is like it's always going to be checking constantly whether something has happened, and then you can tell what it is after this. All right. So what we're going to do in this example is going to be super simple. Is we're going to walk into this sort of box area here, and then it's going to like turn a light on. All right. So I'm going to make this a bit bigger, and I'm also going to add in a point light. Oops, I renamed, let's recall that light and put that up here. Okay, and I'm going to make the light color something really obvious, like a bright pink. I'm going to make it really bright intensity. Let's double that. Great. So up here you've got this compile button. It's not going to mean much right now, but when you've got some script here and you push compile, it will tell you whether there's some errors. So let's see if we can kind of get an example from that. But right now I'm going to delete all of those that are given to us because I want to start right from scratch. So with this example, I want to get the event to begin overlap. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this box, this collision box, go to event graph and right click. And what you'll see is you've got the events for the object that you have selected. Okay, so add an event for box, collision, add on component begin overlap. Okay, so that's the event is on component begin overlap. So when something begins overlapping with this box, which is this guy, then that's going to trigger something to happen. All right, so what do I want to happen? I want this light to turn on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag out from this, which is the node called execute, and it's going to be toggle visibility. So toggle visibility, it's got some different options here, but I know that's that light there because I named it light. I'm going to toggle visibility of the light. All right, so when something begins overlapping, it's going to toggle the visibility of the target, which is that light which I made. Okay, hit compile, there's a green tick, we know that that's going to work. All right, so let's minimize this. So we've got a super duper, probably the most simple script you can possibly imagine in here. And I'm going to drag now my blueprint into the world. And there you can see it because it's casting that light. Okay, so I'm going to push play. And I'm going to walk over here into that area. And you can see now that that light is now off. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to turn up the intensity of that light even more. Something really high. Okay, you can see that light is on. When I enter that area, it's toggled the visibility and turned it off. Okay, so I might want it to be the other way around, so it's off first, and when I walk in there, it's going to turn it on, much like, walking into a room, the light comes on. So if I go to this light, I can scroll down here, and there's a setting for visible, which is currently true. So if you think about it, this script, all that's doing is toggling this checkbox. So if I start with it off, and then compile again, you can see there's no light. I walk over here, and the light comes on. Okay, great. So now what about when I walk away out of this area, I want it to turn off again. All right. So I'll do the same thing again. Select this box, right click in here, add in my event. So I'm going to add an event for that box. It's going to be a collision event. And this time it's end overlap. So when I leave that area. And all that's going to do, it's actually just going to do the same thing. It's just going to toggle this visibility. So I can, when that's executed, it can plug into this same thing here. Okay, the same function. So I compile that, close that down, push play. I come over here, lights on when I'm next to my box. When I walk away from the box, it's off. Okay. And you might think, well, I want it to come on when I'm a bit further away. So I can come in here, go to this, and increase that area. Move the light back down. Compile. Okay. So now I don't have to get quite so close, and the light comes on. Okay. Cool. So that's kind of a real basic introduction. So we've created a blueprint, if you like, or an actor. All right, and within that actor, I've got the viewport where I can put in what I'm actually going to see. So this box, it could be something, your own 3D model that you've created or something like that. You can change the actual static mesh of it over here. I could change that into a pillar if I so wished. All right, and the material and everything. Let's change it back to a box for now. There we go. And then the event graph is going to tell it what to actually do. That's where we put the interactivity, and that's where this blueprint script is. Okay, which we've got the event, and we've got the thing that's going to actually happen after that. And this is the most simple example. Okay, beyond that is going to be, lots of other things going on there. Okay, so that's all for now. It's just a real quick introduction to creating a blueprint, adding it into your game, and actually testing the interactivity to it. All right, and then from there, obviously, you can go on to creating more and more complex things. So hopefully that helps. I'll see you soon.